So I found out pretty quickly that making sugar-free lollipops is a little harder than I expected. Anyhow, the ingredients I use and some of the supplies are down at the bottom, and I have affiliate links next to them, which means I get a little commission if you are purchasing through those links. Anyways, they are isomalt, xylitol, and monk fruit, and of course a silicone mold for lollipops. Now, in order to just make 10 lollipops, you need a quarter cup of isomalt crystals. These are not as grainy and fine as other sweeteners. They're pretty beaded, as you can see. But that is fine because it dissolves in the water. And it's important to use isomalt because it helps harden your lollipop. Then you need 1.5 tablespoons of xylitol if you want to use that. Xylitol is known to promote good health, tooth health, I should say, dental health. But be forewarned, not everyone's digestive system is able to handle a lot of xylitol. And that's why I threw out several batches of lollipops earlier. Yeah, I learned it the hard way, let's just say. So keep it to a minimum. Next, you'll need about 1.5 tablespoons also of monk fruit sweetener. And this is what you would increase if your lollipops don't end up as sweet as you want. Because remember, xylitol, while it's as sweet as sugar, it is not good in large proportions. And isomalt is not great as a sweetener. It is good for getting that nice hard texture that you expect in a lollipop. It doesn't absorb moisture in the air as much as other sweeteners, hence why it is used to harden your candy. Once those sweeteners are measured, get 2 tablespoons of water and put it into a small, heavy bottom pot and put all the ingredients in, just like that. And all you have to do is stir the whole thing gently, not vigorously, but gently, until much of the sweeteners or most of the sweetener grains are dissolved. You probably won't be able to dissolve everything. It takes forever. But if you turn on the heat, which I am going to do in a moment, it helps speed up the process of dissolving the grains. You should only turn up the heat midway, just like what I'm doing here. We're not trying to boil this thing to smithereens. We are just trying to heat it up to a certain temperature. As you can see, the grains are slowly, steadily dissolving. It's the isomalt crystals that take the longest to dissolve. And once you see your pot starting to boil, that's when you stop. You don't want to stir any further, otherwise you might encourage crystallization. Now, the next thing you actually need is something called a candy thermometer. This one is from ThermaPro. It's digital, moisture proof. Its prong for measuring is pretty long. And I don't know if you saw earlier, it had a really nice handy dandy chart right on it that shows at what temperature your type of candy will reach the hard crack stage. And the hard crack stage is really when the syrup that you are making will actually become hard, will properly harden when it starts to cool down. If it doesn't reach that temperature, it's probably going to end up being some sort of soft candy, I suppose. It's not going to be hard like the lollipop that we want it to be. So that is what I am measuring right now. It has to be 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Typically, a sugared lollipop that uses sugar, it just needs to reach 300 degrees Fahrenheit. But for a sugar-free recipe that uses sweeteners, it has to be 320. So, as you can see, it is taking forever for my recipe to heat up to 320. So I'm covering it with a lid. And once I did, it actually heated up maybe a little bit too quickly. I reached above 320, but that's fine. It wasn't exactly burning, which is what you want to avoid. It shouldn't turn brown, but yeah, I definitely reached over 320, a little bit too much. So once your mixture has reached 320, take that pot off and let your recipe syrup, I don't even know what to call it, let it cool down before you add any extracts. If you're going to flavor this, which I am not doing here, if you're going to flavor it, then once it's off the heat source, you should count 30 seconds or 45 seconds. Really, the point is you don't want to put your flavor extracts so soon into the mixture. Otherwise, it could get burned off and then the flavor just dissipates. Anyhow, if you're using the lollipop sticks, you insert them into the mold now and then pour in the syrup. I didn't use any, so I just poured it directly. And once you do that, you have to just wait for them to dry off completely, cool down, and harden. Now, this drop of syrup at the tip of the thermometer is hard, but don't be fooled. I learned that it took several days for the lollipops to really dry off, which unfortunately is a bit too slow for me. Now, I checked the lollipops the next day, and this is what they look like, and it's not bad, but you could still see that the exterior of it is sticky. That shine and shimmer, that's the stickiness. And when I pressed it and tried to manipulate it, it would bend under pressure and then resume its, original shape, which is not what lollipops do. What I wanted was a brittle and hard texture. Also, when I ate one of these, the lollipop ended up, well, it melted in the mouth, but it just ended up being very sticky still. So I knew it was not fully dry and hardened. And another thing, I think this was not as sweet as I would like it to be. The good news is the xylitol to monk fruit proportions didn't produce any digestive issues. So that was a plus. However, it still wasn't as sweet as I would like, so probably need to add more monk fruit and maybe less xylitol in the future. Now, my guess as to why it's taking forever to harden properly is too much water, and I know it seems like 2 tablespoons is already a small amount, but for just 10 lollipops, that's probably a huge amount. And then another thing is the humidity. Maybe the humidity was too high. But anyways, more experiments have to be done.